Hey guys, it's me again, the Obsidian Pixie, and this video is my NEWTs wrap-up. NEWTs, the NEWTs portion of the Magical Readathon ended at the end of August, and I finished 12 books for NEWTs. I was hoping for 15, but 12 is the minimum I needed to get the required grades for my chosen magical career of Metal Charmer. So I did manage to do that. I have my diploma right here. Lovely. I'm so excited. And yeah, let's talk about some of the books I read. For arithmancy, to get an acceptable grade, I needed to read a book that ends on an even page number. I read An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. I loved this book. I started reading it in the morning. I was finished by dinner time. I just sat and read. I could not put it down. I've heard he's planning on writing a sequel. I'm very excited to read that. Definitely need to know what happens next in this story. I don't usually rate books, but this is probably one that would get a very high rating if I did. To get an exceeds expectations in arithmancy, I read Valley of the Dolls by Jacqueline Suzanne. This book was very controversial when it came out in the 60s. Reading it, it felt very relevant for today's society, about the pressure that people feel to become famous and do what's expected and the things that it leads them to do. I actually really enjoyed this book. It was pretty deep in a lot of ways to me, I think, but yeah, again, it was a really good book. I can understand why it was very controversial in the time that it came out, but like I said, it does still feel very relevant for today's society. For my outstanding grade in arithmancy, I needed to read a book longer than 350 pages. And never one to do things halfway, apparently. I read A Clash of Kings by George R.R. Martin. This book is 1,009 pages. So definitely over 350. The Game of Thrones books, I enjoy them, but they take a lot to read because they are so long. There's so many characters, so many storylines. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy them, but they're not my favorites, and they just take a lot of work to read, a lot more work than I usually enjoy putting in reading. Not that I'm saying I always read easy books, because I definitely don't, but these ones take a little bit of extra work even for me. For charms, I had to read a book with a gorgeous cover to get my acceptable grade. I can't actually show you that book. It was called Winter Song by S.J. Jones. The reason why I can't show it to you is because I loved it so much, I immediately lent it to a friend for her to read. It was just an incredible book. It grabbed me right from the beginning. It's a little bit Beauty and the Beast, it's a little bit Labyrinth, and people familiar with classical music might have heard of a piece by Schubert called Der Ölkönig, and it's very much about that. It's just this incredible melding and twisting of familiar story elements and told in such a new and incredible way. I loved it. I can't wait to read the sequel because apparently there is a sequel to it. And yeah, like I said, I immediately lent it to a friend after telling her a little bit about it, and she's a very musical friend as well, so she was very interested in the musical aspects of it. So I can't show that to you, but it was incredible. Definitely 5 stars. Like I said, I don't usually read books, but this was definitely a 5-star book. For a comic or graphic novel or manga that I had to read for my exceeds expectations, I read The Dark Crystal Creation Myths Volume 1. This is kind of the history behind the world of Thra from the Dark Crystal movie, and now there's the new series on Netflix that I have just started watching but haven't had a chance to get really into yet. As usual, I love it. Brian Froud is the conceptual designer behind a lot of these characters, and he's been my favorite artist for years. So yeah, again, it's a really great graphic novel. I absolutely loved it. I had to read a paperback book for my outstanding grade for charms. I read Magic Kingdom, For Sale Sold by Terry Brooks. This is a book we actually picked up for my son, but it was a little bit beyond him right now. He's 9, but a very advanced reader. My husband read this book when he was younger. He really enjoyed it. I have to admit I struggled with it. I enjoyed the premise, the idea that this lawyer looking for something new in his life answers an ad in a high-end catalog to buy a Magic Kingdom. And it's about how he goes to the Magic Kingdom and finds out that it's not the wonderful fairy tale that he'd been led to believe. The kingdom is really struggling, and it's kind of up to him to bring it back. But I found the writing style really, really dry. Apparently Terry Brooks actually used to be a lawyer. I feel like that shows in his writing a little bit. It's very much straightforward and to the point. I just felt it didn't leave a lot of room for the spread of imagination, so to speak. I am going to read more in the series because it is the beginning of a series. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'll enjoy some of the other books, but that one I definitely struggled with. For Transfiguration, my acceptable grade, I had to read a book with LGBT representation. I chose Working It by RuPaul. I'm a big fan of RuPaul. I didn't enjoy this book as much as I was hoping to. It just wasn't exactly what I had expected. I had expected it to be more maybe autobiographical than makeup tips and attitude tips, which, I mean, some of them, like, don't get me wrong, it's great, to have some of the tips for being yourself and, presenting yourself in the best ways. It just wasn't exactly what I was expecting. I did enjoy it, but yeah, I'm hoping to read some of his other stuff soon, and maybe that'll be a little bit more what I'm looking for. I had to read a book that is not first in the series for my Exceeds Expectations grade for Transfiguration. I read Banana Cream Pie Murder. I've mentioned these books before. Like I said, I think this is probably the 20th maybe in the series. I actually got an interesting tip from this, that if you buy fresh bananas, most people when they're making banana bread, they use bananas that have been completely browned. Apparently, if you buy fresh bananas, peel them and freeze them while they're still nice and yellow, and then when you are ready to use them, you unthaw them, they turn into the same kind of banana mash, but have an entirely different kind of banana flavor. Haven't tried this yet, but I'm definitely looking forward to doing it. As usual, I really enjoyed this book, as I've enjoyed the rest of the series. As you can tell, I've found some new baking information, some new recipes I'd like to try. So yeah, another book I really enjoyed. A book longer than 500 pages was what I needed to read for my outstanding Transfiguration grade. And again, glutton for punishment, I read Storm of Swords by George R.R. Martin. Again, one of the Game of Thrones books. This one is very nearly 1,200 pages long. Again, it was a lot of work. I enjoy them, but they're a lot of work. It took me a really long time to get through. I kind of felt stalled for a little while, but I was determined to get through it, and therefore I did. I still have 2 more books in the currently published series to read, and I'm not sure when I'll get to those, but hopefully I will do that soon as well. For Ancient Runes, I had to read a book recommended by a friend. I read The Abyss Surrounds Us by Emily Skritsky. This is a young adult teen read. It's kind of a post-apocalyptic society where we have genetically engineered and created giant sea monsters that are called reckoners, and each reckoner has like a specific trainer that it's linked to, and it's kind of about this girl who is a reckoner trainer, and she's kidnapped by pirates, and they have an unregistered, unlicensed reckoner that they want her to raise and train to kind of fight society. And it's kind of all about how, how her time with them changes her perspectives and things like that. It was actually a really good book. I think it is the first in a series, so I am curious about looking at maybe finding more books in that series. A book written in past tense was what I needed for my Exceeds Expectations in Ancient Runes. I read Water for Elephants by Sarah Gruen. A book I've read before. and it's kind of told from the perspective of an old man's memories. He's living in an assisted living residence and remembering and telling the reader about his past when he worked for a traveling circus in the times of train traveling circuses. The lady who wrote it, Sarah Gruen, she did a lot of research into what traveling by train for a circus was like, and I think that she really brought to life the world that she was talking about. It was pretty incredible. And finally, for Defense Against the Dark Arts, an acceptable grade, I needed a book that's black under the dust jacket. I read Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. Again, it's a book I've read before. It's not one of my favorite books. It certainly has its plot holes and its problems, but at the same time, it also has a lot of subtext about trying to be more than you start as, more than society sees you as, and kind of rising above your current situation. So yeah, like I said, I just got through the required reading that I needed for my grades for my chosen career. I had hoped to upgrade all of my grades to outstandings, but that didn't happen. I finished Twilight on the very last day. And yeah, but I got through 12 books, and some of them were really big books. So I feel pretty happy with myself, pretty excited. And like I said, I did get my Metal Charmer diploma. I am hoping to get a frame for this. This is awesome. I love it. And yeah, can't wait for NEWTs next year. And Owls first. Owls, I think, are in April again. So really looking forward to that. And keep reading. Hope you have a good day. Bye.